What's going on, guys? Good morning. Good morning. How are we all? All good? Are we well? How are we keeping? So, we can start with BTC. Today will probably be a fairly quick session. What's up, Angelo? How are you, man? Yeah, fairly quick, but we can still run through our thoughts, looking at the markets, etc., etc. And yeah, I'll go through my take as always. So, BTC, I mean, we can take a look at the weekly down, but there really hasn't been too much that's happened since the last stream. We're still contained within this micro range down here, still tapping into and off the back of this weekly origin demand, and nothing too much has changed, okay? Steve Jobs look, yeah, this is an old one, oldie but a goodie. So daily come up and swept the 94 fives. Okay, so the daily came up here, swept this high. This was always a point of interest for me, right? Always a point of interest because we are downtrend, right? Trend is down here. Looking at the daily, and in that regard, we're always looking for key highs to be swept in downtrends, key lows to be swept in uptrends, etc., etc. That being said, when we took out the highs, there were no real divergences, okay? There were some RSI divs, but there weren't any double divs across the awesome oscillator and the RSI. If we go to, I mean, the daily, of course, didn't get into the overextended region to start. 12-hour did, but no div. 4-hour did, but again, no divergence here. 2-hour starts to get interesting. There was a divergence here on the RSI, okay? Lower highs formed, but nothing here in the way of double confirmation on the awesome oscillator, as we just have higher highs. Right, so price higher highs, like so, and the awesome oscillator higher highs too. Okay. So we don't even have like a flat-topped AO divergence here, right? AO is literally just saying there's no div here. Okay, and for those that follow my div system, I always want to see double divergence across both the RSI and the awesome oscillator. So there was no trigger for me here on the 2-hour. Again, typically, looking at that 2, we go, okay, cool, there's nothing here on the 2. But if we scroll down to the 1, there should be one present on the 1. And again, there was nothing present on the 1 hour. Okay, so we have still, some sort of divergence here on the RSI hourly. But again, both price and the awesome oscillator simply making higher highs. So again, no trigger. We've got the sweep candle, and it did indeed play out. But as this isn't a particularly sharp and fast move, and there wasn't a double divergence present, there was no trigger for me to take the position. Now you may be looking at this going, okay, we have a flawed system. I tend to disagree, and that double divergence rule that I have in place essentially just keeps me out of shitty positions. So yes, I missed the up on this trade, fine, but I've kept my stringency high, I kept my rule set high, and it will save me from the loss next time. And if you look at the sort of delta dynamics as well, right, we didn't really have too much in the way of positive delta. right? There's not too much here in the way of light blues. We have a little bit here, a tiny bit here, right? A tiny bit here. But it's been nothing of significance. And as you can see, you know, we have spikes here, 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 and they do a little bit, right? They do a little bit. There's not enough for me to go, okay, cool. I'm going to, you know, break my rules, bend my rules rather, on a sort of double div confirmation standpoint off the back of, you know, a delta anomaly. And we didn't have that. Since doing so, we've had a good bit of negative delta come into the market, okay? So it's been the most significant negative delta since the beginning of December, I believe. All right, sort of down here, okay? This spike here, same sort of size as this, 1st of December. And yeah, we basically have to see whether, give me a sec. We have to see whether the delta dynamics have sort of shifted, right? Or whether this delta, negative delta, will have any effect on the markets, okay? If we go down to the hourly, we can see that also we've got equal lows down here. You can see I've got an alert set. So a potential play, right? So when we have equal lows, equal highs, they're much, much, much more likely to be swept and act as a sweep level the price can then revert from. Okay, so I've got my eyes on something like this, perhaps. Maybe, right? Come into this pocket of hourly liquidity here, origin supply, and then maybe come down, take these lows out, and then pivot. Okay. The reason this has my interest is because we're still coming out of the higher time frame weekly origin demand zone here, right? This gray zone being the weekly origin demand. And obviously we've seen quite a bit of local negative delta as well, right? Again, I'm not going to rush into any positions. I need to see everything align. I've still got stringency super high. I've been cautious with my trading, right? Some of the profits I've realized recently have been 1 Rs, 1.5 Rs, intended to be 2, 3, 4s, cut them early because of, you know, gut and intuition telling me to do so, or systematic preferences. But regardless, I'm still building the accounts. I'm doing so slowly. I'm happy to not have any big wins at the moment. And yeah, just being conservative and cautious with my trading these days. And the reason for that is because, you know, we are not particularly directional here, okay? Firstly, if you look at the daily, we're very much range bound, but we're not very directional in either way, okay? So yes, we can say that the local daily trend, like I said, is down, fine. But then we're also coming off the back of this weekly origin liquidity zone here as well, right? So we're kind of conflicted against the daily and the weekly, and it's not a very directionally convincing market, okay? And take a look at ETH as well. So just a quick top down. Still coming off the back of weekly demand, right? Tap into weekly demand. Daily kind of in the middle of nowhere here, right? So if we take this as the local range, like so. We're still, I mean, you know, you've heard the aphorism, don't diddle in the middle. It's exactly where we are at the moment, mid-range. A 4-hour bracketing contained. The only thing that happened, which was slightly interesting, was we swept this high here. We did so into this cluster of supply here, okay? But again, with this being the range highs, right? And with, as I said, I'm keeping my stringency high, my criteria very high to enter positions. I don't want to be entering into a position, 80% into the range, right? That's not really what I want to be doing. So yes, I was cognizant of this supply cluster, cognizant of this potential move, right? That we may sort of start teetering off into this supply region, take out this high and start coming down. But is it good enough for me to sort of position myself from a swing perspective with conviction? Not really, right? Not really. I'm looking for the range highs to be hit. I'm looking for strong divergences. I'm looking for double divergences across both the RSI and the awesome oscillator. I'm looking for large pockets of positive delta. I'm ideally looking for agreement between Ethereum and BTC as well, right? So what I wanted to see was this range high being taken out on BTC at the same time the range high was being taken out on ETH. Divergences form, positive delta being put in, and all the good stuff, right? So didn't get it, no trigger, all good. We can run through some of the alts as well. So BCH, I'm still stalking. I'm still stalking BCH, and I came out of my BCH position that I ran through with you guys last week, in and around the sort of break-even mark. I think I lost 0.1 on the position. But the reason I did so is because BTC, right, so what happened was we were on the hourly here. There are two things that occurred, okay? Firstly, BTC took out the range highs as we discussed, okay? So it took out these double stacked highs, had an RSI divergence, didn't have the awesome oscillator divergence, right? It's not enough for me to use as a short trigger, but is it enough for me to use as sort of a signal to hold back on alt longs? It was something I was thinking about, right? It was something I was thinking about, but I wasn't completely convinced. It's always dancing a fine line with the crypto markets. You don't want BTC to be incredibly counter to your position, but you also don't want BTC to shake you out of the position, right? So it's one of those, it's a very difficult balancing act that you have to sort of take into account. Again, it's something that I've honed over many years. There's no real system or method to the madness. It's mainly a gut intuition, usually straddling the fence and deciding to go one side or the other. For me here, it was sort of a warning shot, but not quite enough for me to go, okay, cool, I'm going to cut my long position on BCH, right, this sweep. But I did say to myself that there are two pockets of demand that are holding up price or could potentially hold up price if we travel lower, right? So this one's an hourly pocket here. This one was more of a 2 hour, okay, in here. But I said to myself, if we lose either of these levels, if we lose both of these levels, then it is time for me to pull my BCH position off the table, take stock and reassess if needs be, basically, right? So obviously we lost number one here, scorched down. I mean, as soon as we had this candle close in it, that's a lost demand zone by my book. So get rid of that. Then we came down, right? Tapped into this one, but did so with speed, right? So normally when these fast moves occur into support resistance, taking out sweep levels, or into supply and demand, right? Then it gives me more confidence in a reversal, not less confidence. Okay, so whilst most people are being fearful, I like to see the sharp moves. Right? I like to see the sharp moves into my zones because it means that I think there's more chance of a V reversal. And we did get that V reversal, but it didn't come back up and challenge the highs. Right? So it just came into this cluster here and then started keeling over. And at this point, start to have a cause for concern because we've got now two closes into the demand zone, right? But I'm still holding a position. At this point here, I believe, I think it was this point here. I closed the position because there we have a much deeper close into the demand zone, and it takes the demand zone as a close, whichever way you draw it, right? So whether you're taking the wick up here or you're taking the candle bodies here, right? It's a proper close either way. So close the BCH position. I'm still looking at it, right, multiple times a day. I'm still looking at BTC, and I'm still sort of feeling out whether it's the right time to move back into the BCH position, because I'm sort of caught between a crosswinds here. Two different thought processes. The first thought process is listen to the individual market, listen to the higher time frames, in particular in this case the daily and 3-day. So as you can see here, we have a strong daily close, right, through a very, very good level here. We come across to the 3-day, we also have a strong 3-day close across a very good level in here as well, okay? Look at the daily RSI. The RSI still looks primed for higher, right? We're teetering around the sort of 58s, 57s at the moment, so still in very good stead, still very healthy, and still plenty of room to the upside. That being said, we have taken out this high up here, and we've started rejecting off the back of it, okay? So we started rejecting despite having a daily close through. We've started rejecting off the back of this sweep here. And what I don't want to be doing, right, is get caught in something which is like this here. Okay, so if we take it from here, oops. Bar replay isn't available with currency conversion. Good job, I don't want to convert any currencies. What is going on here? Snowflake. Right, let's go back to the daily. So what I don't want to be doing is get caught in a position like this, right? Where, again, another clean level, we come up, we take out the high, we take out this local high, and then we start dribbling down and come down, you know, a pretty significant degree off the back of the sweep, okay? It's a minus 30%. There's no stop that I'm going to put in place or any way that that position is going to survive, right? So yeah, it's an interesting one. Obviously, where we're at the moment with BCH is, yes, we've taken out this high, but we're currently retesting here. So I think what I need to see to get back on board with BCH is probably two things. I'm probably looking for a full-bodied candle like so, right? So another green full-bodied candle to say, okay, cool, we have retested this key breakout level here. It's looking good. We're pushing away now. Yes, it will put the RSI slightly higher, but still will probably be within, you know, a good area, maybe the low 60s or something. Maybe not even that, okay? And then also want to see BTC give me some sort of semblance of the fact that it's reversing and daily sweep isn't playing, okay? Because if you look at the daily picture, right, at face value here, it's I mean, we've taken out the range highs, right? We've taken out the range highs, and my default sort of standpoint, as soon as we take out one side of the range, is that it's going to travel to the other side of the range, especially considering it's a pro trend sweep, right? So we've got downtrend, range formation, and we've swept the highs, right? So yes, I didn't get the short trigger, there was no divergence, there wasn't much in the way of positive delta, but still, from a pure price action perspective, we've taken out, it's a pro trend range sweep, and it is what it is, right, at face value. As well as that, you know, we've got these lows here, right, which I said last week, it's kind of okay for me for them to be left unswept, just about, only because you know, they are the taps into the weekly demand zone. But that being said, they're still there, right? They're still there, still ripe for the taking. And yeah, from a pure price action perspective, we have taken out, you know, the range high of a pro trend daily range, and we may visit lower off the back of that, right? Even though I didn't get the entry, didn't take the short, it may still occur. So yeah, BCH in the balance, right? At the moment, in the balance. BNB still very much range bound as well, right? Still range bound here. Alert set at the highs for the same sort of play, right? Pro trend, sweep of the highs. ETH, again, we've gone through it. Same, still contained within daily range. Not looking for any trigger unless we sweep either highs or lows, yeah. Hype, not really too much of interest here. Okay, I suppose sweeping the sort of 21s, 20 low potentially, but again, this looks like it's sort of lost its steam. Yeah, it looks pretty cooked. You know, if hype was to keep going, then this level was the main level on the chart that we've lost. As you know, I was short from this area here, cut it down here. Not particularly interested in trading this market at the moment. Alerts up here, the 1.95s, again, potential pro trend sweep of highs. Same thing with Solana, right? Alerts up here, got a daily supply zone in here, but we'll assess the situation as and when we take out these highs. Same with TRX. XMR is the other market that looks interesting right from the long side. Alongside BCH is the only other market really, as far as I'm aware, that looks interesting from a long perspective. Right, so obviously we broke out this diagonal here on the 4. It's a good diag, right? 1 touch point, 2 touch points, 3 consolidation, all in one sort of thing, so not too bad. Broke up, took out the high with speed, but has now come down, retested the stage level, started pushing up, and the RSI looks very healthy here, right? Sort of retesting the mid and pushing away. XRP is an interesting market. I think that 3 days is probably the best to look at because we were marking this as a 3-day level. As you can see here, multiple touch points on the daily, not as clean. Right, we come down and deviate here. So I prefer to chart it on the 3-day, but you can see how we sort of deviated the lows here and come up to reclaim. Okay, so particularly interesting market. Keeping eyes on XRP. Zora, quite the opposite, right? Same sort of daily level here, but I've lost it, retested it, and seemed to be dribbling down. ZEC, obviously interesting PA of late. Lost this demand zone. I saw something on Twitter about the Zcash core dev team resigning or something, but again, you know, as you know, I don't take news into my trading very much. Tend to just trade what I see on the charts. And the reason for that is, you know, again, I haven't taken any positions on ZEC, but you know, as I've always said, you get to see the news on the charts before it occurs, right? So even here, right, this was year end, okay, heavy divergences here on the 2. Right, get that double confirmation on the AO. Price struggling up here. and that was the top. Okay, so you seldom find a news event, right, where you haven't seen it in the charts before. Even this, I know Vitoshi in the group took this trade. I think it was from here. Loss of this SR here, right? So as we lose this SR, took the short position, and again, it's a different trade, right? But the same thing. You're seeing the loss of the level before the news. Okay. Honestly, the less you can listen to news, the better your trading will be, in my honest opinion. It's a very controversial opinion, I understand, but it did me wonders. So now this is kind of a breaker, right? When supply and demand gets cut through like butter, right? Then it's a breaker after that. I don't really mark breakers on my charts anymore, right? But I used to have them in dark blue. And basically what happens is they then act as the support resistance. You can see we're coming up and we're sort of failing at that previous demand zone, now breaker. Also sort of coming up to the 50 level here as well. Mel, nothing to do, nothing to trade, right? Very boring market these days. H-bar, same as Zora, right? Just coming up and retesting the loss of that level. Further downside unless this is reclaimed and pulls an XRP. CC, disappointing market, right? Disappointing market because I really wanted the twos. I really wanted something like this to occur, right? Take out all-time highs, put in that sort of divergence up here, and give us a really nice trigger to play it downwards. Unfortunately, didn't quite have the gusto to get up there. All good, right? All good. Now, like it looks like it's potentially losing this level here, especially with the daily the 4 hour RSI positioning, struggling at the mid. Is it enough for me to enter on the short side? Not quite enough, right? Not quite enough. Again, if I was being fast and loose with my trading, then it would, but I'm not, and I'm keeping my stringency high, criteria high, system on lock, and yeah, very happy to sit on my hands in these markets. Very, very happy. Unless I see the perfect opportunity, which I'm like, okay, cool, this really warrants my entry and my attention, I'm not going to take anything, right? I'm just going to wait, right? Patience is a virtue and will ultimately lead you to less losses, right? So I think we're kind of happy with that overview there. Again, like I said, a particularly short stream today, but that's kind of all I'm looking at, right? Keen eyes on BCH still. It's really the only market that I'm looking at potentially positioning back into. BTC, want to see some resolution, and generally speaking, maintaining stringency, maintaining patience, maintaining discipline. And being very happy to sort of foster and nourish those tenets. There's no problem with sitting on your hands. No position is a position, all of that stuff, right? So I suggest you guys do the same. Don't overtrade these markets, right? We are very much chopping around at the moment. There's very little in the way of volatility or value at the moment. So yeah, just bear that in mind. Keep your guard up, right? And yeah, keep yourself busy. Okay. Take care, guys. And yeah, to members of my group, I'll catch you in the Discord. The rest of you, next